Welcome. My name is Alan Sanchez. I'm the President and CEO of St. Joseph Community Health, and happy that you're here. Just a little brief about St. Joseph, since we're here hosting. St. Joseph is an organization, a company that has 85 million in assets and has been in New Mexico for over 100 years. And so our work with children and families has a long history. We also run the largest home visiting program of its kind in the nation. And so we're reaching out. And St. Joseph doesn't take any state or federal funding, but we do advocate for the children. We want to see that the children in our state will have the best start. So I want to welcome the media and the business community that has joined us here today. I want to introduce real quickly our speakers. We have Senator Michael Padilla with us, Mr. Patrick Themeg, Mr. Victor Lemry, Mrs. Valerie Plain Wilson, Mr. Jim Lujan, and Dr. John Icon. So we really need to start with the most important point, and that's the children. And so I'm going to invite Dr. Icon to speak about children because this is the core of it. Many people keep talking about the fund, and the fund is important, and that's why we're here. We're going to talk about how the fund can be used and safely use and protect the principle, and the fund will continue to grow, the Permanent Land Grant Fund. And we'll explain a little about the Permanent Land Grant Fund also, so you can have an understanding of that. In the packet, there's some information there. We'll go over the packet at the end for those who have questions about it. But we're seeing the Land Grant Permanent Fund needs to make a permanent impact on our society. And so I'd like to call on Dr. Icon. Dr. Icon is the Chief Medical Officer for Loveless Health Plan and is a pediatrician.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I practiced general pediatrics for 29 years. I ran a 110-bed children's hospital and a medical group in a very poor area of Florida for a number of years. I want to hit 3 or 4 big points. One, as a businessman and the business support we've had here, all we care about is return on investment. Children are our future, and New Mexico has a proud heritage of supporting children, and we want to take that to the next level. So why this? I led a project in Florida where we did an early education program in the home. It was a 6-week course to reduce child abuse. During that time, we touched 1,500 lives, and after 5 years, after that period of time, no one had ever become involved with the criminal justice system for child abuse. There's another pilot study that's very similar but not as extensive as the one that St. Joseph is doing that I was a part of, where we did home visits in the first year of life only, every week. And in that, it was about a 20-year study. It's hard to do that, but it had a 50% reduction in those children encountering, any of them in that program encountering the criminal justice system. Increase their graduation rates from about 20 to 30% to over 50 to 60%. Why else? Why 0 to 3, which is our focus? And this bill is bigger than that, but from our little world, a child's brain is almost completely grown by age 3. It's pretty much hardwired by age 3. So all of the things that we can do to enhance that age-appropriate development up to age 3 establishes that child for success in the rest of his life. And I don't know about you, but everything I get has a manual with it. But when you have a baby, you don't get a manual. It's not like at 6 months do this, at 9 months do that. I wish I had one. I raised 3 sons, and I wish I would have had my own little instruction manual. That's what we're providing. We're providing an instruction manual for parents who are in a position and distraction, just trying to get life goals, to give them that manual at every month, 6 months, 2 months, 5 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years. What's age-appropriate development for that child? What's the appropriate discipline? What's the appropriate tools to put in front of that child to maximize them as they transition into Head Start, other programs, pre-K, and get going forward? If you don't invest in the first 3 years of life in a child, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose that ability to create a child that's going to be a proud citizen of the state of New Mexico, who's going to graduate from high school, who's going to go to college, who's going to stay out of the criminal justice system who's going to grow up and be a taxpayer and contribute back to the society. And so the investment that we're talking about, if you want to talk about the businessmen in this community, an ROI on that investment, you probably can't even figure it. And so from a clinical standpoint, you have to engage parents and in an age-appropriate way to help that children nurture that child so that when they're at 3 years old and that brain's pretty developed and they've had that stimulation that's age-appropriate, they're ready to go. And then I think using this fund for all kids in New Mexico, we've piloted in Albuquerque, and it's just amazing. The feedback and the metrics that we have around this program that's been going on are amazing. We want to take this to all citizens of New Mexico, and that's why we need the help of the legislature to make this happen. So thanks, Alan, for letting me speak on that. Obviously, I care.
Doctor, thank you. The doctor had a very busy schedule, and we had to get him a driver. So I appreciate that, Doctor. I know that he has to get to a conference call. So, Doctor, thank you again.
No, I appreciate it.
The evidence is there, and this is what's so important. The evidence is there, and it's just inevitable. It's inevitable that the formula that governs the Permanent Land Grant Fund catches up to the science. And so coming together to emphasize business, I'm an entrepreneur. I was the owner and operator of Jersey Gold Dairy and Jersey Gold Milk. Some of you probably had some of that milk in your lifetime. But business is important, and we have to find good workers. But you don't find them, you raise them. And so I'd like to call on the owner and operator of Talim Market, or I should say Markets. He's about to open one down the street here. Victor Limry, will you please?
Thank you. So here we are today to talk about business. So let's get down to business. It's time to walk the talk about early childhood education. I join my fellow business leaders here today in urging lawmakers to commit to this long-term adequate funding to provide the next generation of our children with the opportunity to succeed. I'm here today to support the joint resolution because I know what it's like to run a business. I employ New Mexicans, and I myself interview plenty of people, even just for retail jobs on a daily basis, and a lot of times people just aren't even qualified. I understand what it means to have a high quality workforce. Our economy desperately needs workers who are educated, who are critical thinkers, and who are problem solvers. This funding will put children on the path to success, and that will provide me, and as well as every other business out there, with a skilled pool of talent in the future. The key to having a high-quality workforce is creating an education system that addresses the years from ages 0 to 5. That's when kids learn the most, and Dr. Iacone had emphasized that. This would ensure that kids are ready to learn from day one of school, when they start kindergarten, all the way through graduation. Just from my own personal experience, I started preschool at the age of about 2 or 3, knowing only 2 words of English, yes and no. By the time I finished that and started kindergarten, I was already able to read at a 1st or 2nd grade level. Just based on my own experience, I started I provide the best environment I can for my 2 young daughters, and my 4-year-old, who's in pre-K right now, she's able to read better at 4 years old than I could even when I was at 5 or 6. And so it just goes to show you, from a personal standpoint, how much the brain develops in those early years and how critical it is for us to provide for our children's education. So New Mexico has a chance to be successful in creating a high-wage economy, but we must put our money where our mouth is and to invest in early childhood. Thank you very much.
So we know that we have this wonderful fund, and we're not creating a new beneficiary. We're focusing on education, expanding the definition of education to include the little guys. This is what this is about, and making sure that all boats will float in this formula, that all the beneficiaries be protected, and that the fund continue to grow. But the fund will grow by a little bit less. We have to be honest about it, a little bit less. But that investment is worth it because the return is even greater than the stock market. So I want to call it a businessman who managed a lot of people. Patrick Themick, retired VP for a generation from P&M. Patrick?
Thank you. My name is Patrick Themick. As Alan said, I worked for P&M, but before that I worked for many utilities, 36 years in the utility business. And I just wanted to say our state permanent funds are enjoying historic gains. I mean, the market's doing well, the funds are doing well, yet our children are falling further and further behind. And this is wrong. It's wrong for our communities, it's wrong for the state, it's wrong for our children, it's wrong for the future of our business leaders, like Victor had indicated. There are those who say permanent funds must be saved for the future. But what we're talking about is the future, investing in the future, using the funds to invest in the future, but we must start now. We have the resources under Senate Joint Resolution 3 that will make the difference. Investing in early learning is consistent with the intent of the funds because it leverages the K through 12 and advanced education thereafter. Investing $150 million in early childhood programs will not only help our kids, it will create jobs and infrastructure right here in New Mexico. And we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 4,000 jobs potentially being created by use of these funds in educating our children. What's more, the additional amount will not reduce the principal of the permanent fund by one thin dime. It won't reduce the corpus by one thin dime. Alan indicated that maybe the growth might be a little bit slower, but the corpus will continue to grow. In fact, the fund will grow while investing in kids, while the investment in kids is being made. Finally, taxpayers across the state will enjoy long-term benefits from the investment in kids. Why? Because when our kids are given more opportunity to do better in school, this means more achievement and fewer dollars spent on special education, on juvenile justice, and on remediation. It's time we do what science tells us about the child's brain development and what business tells us about preparing our kids for the 21st century jobs. As a taxpayer, as a business leader, former business leader, as a parent, having raised 3 kids, I have no doubt that this joint resolution is good for New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So there's an amortization that you can see the fund growing. The fund's going to grow. We can do this safely, and we can make a big change. Change has to come. New Mexico has to catch up with the technology. And so I want to introduce Jim Lujan from Technology and Integration Systems.
Actually, it's Technology Integration Group, but that's all right. I wore my sunglasses. I left my regular glasses in the car, so I have to hold my paper up. Excuse me. Diane called me up and asked me to speak about this. And I'll tell you, I feel so much passion about this cause because we're really, in my industry in technology, we're really lacking in the state. We have Sandia National Labs. We have Los Alamos National Labs. We have some of the greatest scientific minds in the world right here in our state. And yet in our education system, we're falling so far behind. And I work primarily with education and technology, and I work with a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, and I see the immense struggle they have. And a lot of that struggle can be eradicated if we take care of the kids when they're small, when they're forming. You know, pay attention to the beginning of something. The middle and the end will have better outcomes. So I feel this passion about supporting this cause of really making a difference, not just throwing money at something, but really taking those kids that need nurture, that need care, that need love, that need attention, that need to be held. These kids that are not, that they're thrown into a place where they're not getting all this. By the time they get to kindergarten, by the time they get to first grade, they're so far behind that it's a struggle. My own daughter, we did an experiment with her. I have a 29-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. It's a big gap. And we did something a little different with this. The 7-year-old. We had no TV. We started reading to her. We read to her all the time. She started reading by herself at age 2. She got tested when she was 5, extremely gifted. She's well balanced. Her teachers love her. She loves kids. And you know what? She's a quick learner. And that's the type of kids that we need, not only going to impact us economically, but think of the impact to our society. So I urge the legislators to support this bill. No impact, as you said, at all to the fund. It's going to be something beneficial for all of us, especially the kids. Thank you.
There's plenty of political will on this. In the packet, there is a poll by Brian Sanderoff. 80% of our people want it on the ballot. 71% at the time of the poll said they would vote that. The people understand that, and our legislators understand it. So I want to call on a businessman and a Senator, Michael Padilla.
Thank you, Alan. My name's Michael Padilla. I represent District 14 here in the State Senate. I just landed. I feel like I'm trying to take a sip from a fire hydrant with all the issues that people want to talk about. But what I will say is that Invest in Kids Now and this organization is truly going to change New Mexico. I'm a firm believer. I started working on this 2 years ago as a business person, and to me, it's a no-brainer when you think about it. And when I have the opportunity to sit down with people and explain to them exactly what this is about, there's that aha moment every single time. I even sat down with Governor Martinez about 2 weeks ago. We had about an hour-long conversation on a number of issues. Coming up to Santa Fe, I wanted to make sure that she knew what was important to me and to the people who sent me here. We spent 50% or a half hour of that time talking just about early childhood and how important and critical this is to New Mexico. I was able to walk her through the fact that this just isn't just a teaching kids to read kind of thing, which is incredibly important. The educational value of what's trying to be accomplished here, that's incredibly important. But you've got to figure kids are going to be so much better prepared when they hit kindergarten. They're going to be better readers at 3rd grade, which I know is important to the governor. It's important to all of us. Math and science, it's going to be a home run by the time they're in the 8th grade. Our dropout rates are going to be cut in half, maybe 75%. Maybe we eliminate them altogether in New Mexico with this type of action. This is such a huge deal. I don't think people really realize it. And so, there's a lot of people here from St. Joseph Community Health. They're doing a great job running all over the halls of the roundhouse, talking to people. And so I was able to carry that message a little further for the governor and tell her, this is an economic boom for New Mexico. It's a short-term and immediate impact to the economy, as Mr. Tallon was saying. But then beyond that, companies are going to look at New Mexico differently. Our workforce is going to be so much better prepared. We have a lot of things to do on tax policy and a number of other things to make New Mexico attractive. But we've got to fix our schools as well. And we've got to help the children so that they can succeed. And someone was talking about the return on investment. As a business person, again, this is a no-brainer. 13% return per child per year for the rest of their lives. You're not going to get that anywhere. So you have my commitment, Alan, and the rest of the gang that's working on this. I'm going to fight for this. I was working on it for 2 years. I ran on this issue. I knocked on doors up to 7 times to get here, and this is one of the issues I always talked about. And you have my commitment that I'm going to work on this. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Senator Michael Sanchez wanted me to send his regards. He's on the floor. He was going to try and break away during the press conference, but as Majority Leader of the floor, he needs to be there right now. But our sponsor of the legislation in the Senate is Michael Sanchez, and in the House is Representative Rick Miera. And so I'd like to call on someone who has a world view of this and knowing what is the need for people to begin a good start. If we arrive behind, we stay behind. And so I'd like to introduce Valerie Plain Wilson. Since she's moved here, she's been very active in the community. She's also now on the board of United Way of Santa Fe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Valerie Plain Wilson. My husband, Joe Wilson, and I moved our family here in 2007. We love New Mexico. This is our home, and we're passionate about it. But it was much to our dismay after sort of that euphoria wore off. We're here and we're away from Washington, that the educational system in this state is so sorely lacking. Now, as a board member of the United Way, I was first exposed to this issue through a presentation that was made before the holidays. It's the first time I'd really heard of it or understood it. And it appeared to me to be so obvious. Of course, the return of the investment that several on this panel have spoken about, you put that money up front, and the return on investment, you can't get that anywhere else. Now, you may wonder, you know, of course it's a long leap. My professional experience is not in business. I was a covert operations officer for the CIA. So it's a long reach from there to what I'm doing today. But really I'm here as a mother. I have 13-year-old twins at home. And let me tell you, that is way harder than working for the CIA. But I'm here as a mother, and I'm here as someone who is deeply caring about this community and about our state. And you put this money in up front. As we've all said, the science shows us. You can't, by the time you put in these maybe programs at age 5 or 6, because of external environmental factors, it may be too late for so many. And you back it up to 0 to 5, and all of a sudden your outcomes at high school graduation rates start going up. Everyone here is tired of saying we're 49th in the nation in whatever, you know, thank goodness for Mississippi sort of thing. We don't want our children, when they do graduate, to go, we have to leave the state to find a job and pursue a career. There is too much here. And so I urge everyone to look a little bit into this, look into the facts. When the principal is not going to be budged by any significant amount, it just makes sense. So thank you for allowing me to participate, and it's something I believe in passionately. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I want to point out something. You see the names behind us. And this is just a few of the names of business owners, operators, people who believe in this, that this makes financial sense. And this is really the point we have to end on. It makes financial sense to invest wisely. With the press, we have a packet for you, and I'm happy to walk you through that on where we see the return, what the return has been in the last years. Last year, it's in the news, and the numbers add up for the kids. The numbers add up for the children. The math is on the children's side. When you look at the fund, you look at the growth. Now, a senator asked me, Alan, are we going to hurt the fund? And this senator actually serves on a foundation, and I asked her, well, you're on the foundation of this is Senator Papin, I'll say it. Senator Papin asked me, is it going to hurt it? And I said, no, because you serve on the fund or the board for the Las Cruces Diocese Catholic Foundation. And I said, what cushion do you need for that fund? And she said, we need at least a 1%. And is that what you get? Yeah, about a 1%. This fund is like no other fund. I said, what if I could tell you that you would have a 5%, maybe a 4 or 5% cushion? Is that a good cushion? And what I mean is from money coming in and money going out. Oh, that's wonderful. Nobody can do that. The state does it right now. The Permanent Land Grant Fund has that cushion. Otherwise, we would not be proposing this, because we got to protect all the beneficiaries to make sure that all our children are protected and taken care of. And so when we sat down, like with the School for the Blind, it was clear to them, we're going to, the state, the people, we're going to intervene earlier. And these home visiting programs, they're going to identify the children's needs even earlier and then get them into these wonderful programs like the School for the Deaf and the Blind. That all works together. I had this image of a potter, and I'll end with this. New Mexico has great potters, you know, and you've seen these potters making this clay, and that fresh clay turning there. See, Lucky Varela asked me, he said, well, aren't you trying to get the children in the classroom earlier? No. We're talking about the pot, huh? The clay, the wiring, the hardware. And think of that beautiful pot before the clay dries. In New Mexico, we poke holes in it. Poke a bunch of holes in it. Huh? And those are the adverse childhood experiences. That's homelessness, alcoholism in the family, domestic violence. The children getting to school behind aren't start reading. And then we want to pour the investment of K through 12, a good investment that we're making today. And we want to pour it into that vessel. And it can't hold it. It can't hold it because the child went through these adverse child experiences. This is a solution. And one thing I see here in the roundhouse, no one's arguing that we should not take care of the kids. They recognize that. And we now recognize the solution. The political will is there. The people of the state want it. Let's ask our legislators, put it on the ballot. And that's really what we're discerning here today for the legislators. Their real discernment should be this. Is this worthy of a public debate? That's what a constitutional amendment is about, because it's governed by the people. It's the people's money. And let's send it to the voters. So we're open to questions, and any of the press who want to walk through the packet so we can